Bezrat Hashem, we're starting a new chapter in Tomer Devorah, chapter number 5. And just to remind you, chapter 1 and 2 corresponded to the Sphira of Keter. Chapter number 3 corresponded to Chokhmah. Chapter number 4 corresponded to Bina. And going by the approach of the Ramak, then chapter number 5 is not going to be Dat, rather chapter number 5 is going to be Chesed. If you remember, I told you many times, there's a different approach between Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, the author of Tomer Devorah and many other books, and the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, about the structure of the Sfirot. The Ramak says that the Sfirot go Keter, Chokhmah, Bina, then Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yisod, Malchut. The Arizal says, no, Keter is not a Sfira. Keter is a crown that crowns the Sfirot, and the Sfirot are Chesed, Gvura, Chokhmah, Bina, Dat, Chesed, Gvura, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, Yisod, Malchut. But doesn't matter, both are right. I explained many times the different approaches. But now that we're starting chapter number 5, we are leaving, so to say, the structure of what's called Mochin, intellect, Chokhmah, Bina, and Dat, and we're starting a whole new path into the Midot. So chapter number 5 is focusing on the Midah of Chesed. Of course, the title is like other titles in the other classes. Kitzad Yargil Adam Atzmo B'Midat HaChesed. How are you going to make yourself used to living according to the Midah of Chesed? And it's using the word Yargil. Yargil means that it comes from the word Hergel, a habit. Exactly like we talked now in the previous class. You want to be successful, it has to become a lifestyle. It has to become a habit. And again, I told you in last class, not the last Tomer Devorah class, the previous class that we just finished, that it kind of puts you in a catch-22 because the Torah tells you, don't make your Torah a habit. Because when it becomes a habit, then you're doing it like a robot. So that's not the habit we're talking about. Habit means that you are very efficient and fast in what you do. When you do something for the first time, you don't do it right. When you do something after 1,000 times, you don't even have to look, you don't have to think. Then you have to bring into it the excitement, the enthusiasm, the kavanah, the meditation. That's how you're making it not a habit. But the way you do it is when you do something thousands and thousands of times, it becomes like a second nature. It's almost like, and I told you, I gave you different different examples. Once I gave you the examples when a rabbi wants to master the concept of looking at the cloth, whether a woman bloodstain is pure or not. I told you, David HaMelech, that's what he did. David HaMelech, the king, he would sit all day long. The women would bring them the cloth when a woman has a stain of blood to see if she's pure or not pure. And up until today, if a woman has a stain of blood, a married woman, of course, she sees blood coming out from her source, then she needs to take it to the rabbi to see if she's pure or not. She can be with the husband or not. For a rabbi to master that and to be authorized to check the cloths, he needs to do it at least 1,000 times. 1,000 times with another rabbi to check, to be able to come and give a verdict. Because if he gives the wrong verdict, the wife is going to be with the husband while she's nidah. 1,000 times. After 1,000 times, the halacha says he will become, it's a habit. He knows how to check. It's the same thing with a mohel. You know, the person who does the circumcision. You don't just learn the technicality. You have to go with the mohel hundreds of times and look, how is he doing it? Same thing with slaughtering an animal. You want to be a shochet. When you do it over and over and over, the first time you slaughter, the poor cow. But after 1,000 cows, you know how to do it. You do it with your eyes closed. What makes it look very simple, but it's not. So the title of the chapter, Keitzad Yargil Adam Atzmo B'Midat HaChesed, how will you take the midah, the attribute of chesed, and make it a second nature to you? I'd rather not give a long, lengthy introduction. Let's just go straight to the text. And just with a small note that you have to remember the approach of the Tomer Devorah. The approach of the Tomer Devorah is that I have to resemble the master in order for me to reach to my true purpose. If you don't have on your goal list to reach your true purpose, then what are you doing here? Do you have a purpose? Do you have any aspiration, any goals? What are you doing here? Now again, it's not to put somebody down. It's to put somebody in the right perspective. I'm here. I don't want to be a waste of space. I need some type of purpose. I need a goal. I need to achieve something in this world. I might not be the next billionaire. I might not be the next most famous singer in the world. I don't want to be a billionaire or a singer. I want to achieve my purpose. What is your purpose? Well, now it's not the class to tell you what's your purpose. But the Tomer Devorah tells you one of your main goals in your achieving your purpose is you have to resemble the master of the universe according how he conducts his behavior to the world. If you mimic it, not only that you'll be successful, and successful doesn't mean you have millions in your bank account. That doesn't mean successful. But it will make you successful and you'll achieve your purpose in this world, that after 60, 70, 80, 90 years in this world, you'll come up to the next world and you'll say, I got 100 on my test. I did it. Took me 80 years, but I did it. So that's the approach of the Tomer Devorah. And he comes and gives us that based on the Sfirot that are the attributes of the Master of the Universe. So before we start, just to remind you, we went through 4 chapters. First chapter corresponds to Keter. First 2 chapters corresponds to Keter. Third chapter corresponds to Chochmah. And 4th chapter corresponds to Bina. And needless to say, we went through many, many classes. If you didn't see that, you can find them on the website. Go and look at the whole series. This is something that you need to over and over and rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat. It's not enough to watch one class or read one paragraph and you think you'll be successful. I read this book maybe 40 times and I still have a lot what to learn and how to apply it. With that said, the difference between the next few chapters and the last 4 is that the last 4 correspond to the intellectual part of the Sfirot, what's called Mochin. Now we're starting the Midot. We're starting with Chesed. On the surface, seems very simple and very easy to apply. But I can tell you there's more than meets the eye. It's not so simple. And it goes as follows. Ikar knisat ha'adam el sod ha'chesed. If you want to enter the realm, the secret of Chesed, and Chesed, the translation is kindness. Hu le'ehov et Hashem tachlit ha'ava. You have to love Hashem in the most profound way. He says tachlit. Tachlit is a purpose. But how can loving Hashem be a purpose? And how can you convince me to love something? If I love it, I love it. If I don't, I don't. That's why I told you, on the surface seems, well, what's the big deal? Of course I love Hashem. Yeah, you really love Him? You don't even know Him. How do you love Him? And how much do you love? And what does that love means to you? And what does it stand for, this love? That's why he says, Tachlit Ahava, the purpose of love. And therefore I told you the words sound simple, but you have to really analyze the words to understand what he's trying to tell you. But he says, in order to acquire and to enter the secret of Chesed, you have to love Hashem in the purpose of love. How can I start falling in love with Hashem? Lerov gdulato umifalav hakabirim is when I start realizing how great He is and how great is all His actions. Now, if I don't see that, then I will never fall in love in Hashem. Yeah, okay, He created the world. Okay. But when I start to realize and to see Rov Gdulato, how great is His greatness, and Mif'alav HaKabirim, and how wondrous is everything that He does, then by default it will start causing me to fall in love. If you want to take some type of analogy, you know, in the secular world, there's a pop star and millions of fans, right? And then he walks in the street and all the little girls, I love you, I love you. Why you fall in love with him? Because he sang a song and he has tight pants. Like, what? I mean, I was also a teenager once, and you have some rock star and millions of people love him, posters everywhere and so forth, and I love him, I'll die for you. You don't even know the guy. How do you know? So he sings a nice song, that's why you love him. Maybe he's a complete psychopath. But the nature, what you can take from here is when somebody is so great and so successful and so famous, the nature of a simple individual is to fall in love with that. He's so successful. I can tell you already that most of these stars are either psychopaths, completely deranged, not nice individuals, whether it's Hollywood stars, singers. You love them so much. Well, you don't even know the person. Not the personality. The person would even spit in your direction. And that can be with, famous athletes. And why do you love her? Okay, so they're very good with what they did. So this is the idea, is that if you start meditating and understanding how great Hashem really is, that nothing can compare to, and not only that, how wondrous and amazing are His actions, that action will lead you to fall in love with Hashem. Now it means that you have to start meditating on the greatness of Hashem. More than that, שלא יניח האדם עבודתו של השם יתברך לשום סיבה בעולם. That's advice number 2. So advice number 1, if you want to master the midah of chesed, first of all, fall in love with Hashem. And I'm not elaborating right now on what he's saying. I just told you, how do you fall in love in Hashem? So he told you, meditate on how great Hashem is. If you're ignoring the greatness of Hashem, you'll never like Him. Go now to a secular individual, a person that doesn't believe in God. Why doesn't he believe and admire God? Because he doesn't realize that all these miracles and the wonders is because of God. He thinks it's nature. Because in school, the 3rd grade teacher told him that there was an evolution. And everything is nature, what you see here. So the person doesn't give credit to God. Take the same child and teach them in the yeshiva that everything is Hashem, 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 Hashem. Of course they'll grow to love Him, because you see the greatness. That's advice number 1. And we're not elaborating on that. Maybe another time we'll explain in length how do you really meditate on the greatness of Hashem, that if you do that persistent, then you'll fall in love with Hashem. It might take you 40 years, by the way, to see how great Hashem is. Maybe Hashem did so many miracles in your life that you don't even need to meditate on that, and you're saying, Hashem saved me so many times. Every time I have a problem, He comes to the rescue. By default, you fall in love with Him. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to make hearts, I love Hashem, and all this nonsense. It means that deep down inside, you feel this great love to the Master of the universe. So he gave you one example, one advice. What's the other advice? שלא יניח אדם עבודתו של השם יתברך לשום סיבה בעולם. Don't push over any, he calls it Avodat Hashem. Avodat Hashem is my servants to Hashem. Prayers, learning Torah, doing the mitzvot. He says never give priority to something else over your Avodat Hashem. Many times a person, it's time for him to go and pray mincha. There's a big business deal. No, I gotta attend this call. I gotta take this call. I'll pray later. I'll pray by myself. I'll pray twice a week. Why are you giving priority to something that is not Avodat Hashem? First comes Hashem and your service to Hashem, then you do everything else. And I know many people, they did actions that overpowered the service to Hashem to get something. Something physical, of course. I'll tell you a story that there's a famous singer in the Jewish world. Of course, he's very famous in the non-Jewish world. His name is Matityahu. And he sings reggae, and not a lot of people know him because not everybody likes that type of music, but he is very famous. So I learned with him in the same yeshiva. We attended the same yeshiva, sat next to each other. And he was becoming Choser B'Tshuva, learning Torah all day long. And one day he comes to the rabbi with an interesting question. And he tells the rabbi, the head of the yeshiva, I'm a little bit more known now, I'm a little bit more famous. I got a very enticing business offer from a very big company that they make beer, Budweiser. And they want me to be like the spokesperson and to represent them. $1 million contract. The rabbi says, no, congratulations. What's the question? They have a condition. What's the condition? They want me to shave the beard. What should I do? So the rabbi told him, they're willing to give you $1 million without the beard? Just imagine how much you'll get with the beard. So he turned down the deal, and if I'm not mistaken, a year later he signed a contract with Sony Productions for millions and millions of dollars. He performs with Madonna, he's like on MTV, he made it big, Baruch Hashem. Okay? So this is a perfect example, because I know many people who shaved the beard, took everything off, didn't pray, I need this business deal. I heard another example of a certain individual who was this close to making the deal of the century, millions and millions of dollars, and he had a beard. And he didn't know if to go to the business meeting with the potential partners with the beard. Maybe they'll think he's Jewish, fanatic. He didn't know what to do. He went to a rabbi. The rabbi told him, don't dare to touch the beard. And sure enough, he went and shaved the beard. He comes to the meeting with the investors, with the partners, and the main guy says the deal is off. And I'm talking here about in the scale of hundreds of millions, not like a so small transaction. Why is the deal off? The potential partner says, you are a Jew. Originally, I saw you with a beard. Now you cut the beard. So I see that your belief in your faith is not strong. I don't want a partner like that. So he says to you here, "Shelo yaniach adam avodato shel Hashem yitbarach leshum siba ba'olam." Don't push aside your servants to God for any reason in the world. And he elaborates, "Afilu osek behevel ha'olam," even if you're dealing right now with the mundane things of the world. "Le'achayot atzmo," you need to go and work. "Lo yafrid machshavto me'adam yedabek b'kadosh baruch hu." Even while you have to work now for 12 hours, you have to make parnasai, make a living. You have to support your family. Even while you're working, don't for 1 second take Hashem off your mind. I'm working l'shem shamayim. The money I'm going to make, honestly, will go to sustain my family. I will give charity with it, to buy kosher food, to send my kid to yeshiva. Constantly, you're thinking of Hashem. When can I take a stop to pray? I will go 3 miles down the road to eat kosher food and not to settle right here. I have a friend. I told you before the stories of what makes the things clear. I have a friend. For many years, I constantly try to inspire him to become a better Jew. So I know how to play on his nerves, because he loves money, he loves business. So every time if I tell him, put tefillin on, you'll make a business deal. Eat kosher, you'll make money. So that's what I push on. So one time, of course, he got tefillin on, he puts tefillin, he puts talit. And one time I was like, you got to eat kosher, you got to eat kosher. It's hard. Listen, I'm in America. It's not easy to find kosher food everywhere. And I told him, if you're going to eat kosher, I guarantee to you you're going to be successful in business. Okay, I'm eating kosher. One day he calls me and he's like, you were right. I told him, don't you know my famous sticker? I'm always right. I know I'm right. So he says, no, you were right. I said, I know I'm right. What do you want to tell me? He says, for the last 3 months I didn't eat kosher. It was very hard for me. I travel a lot. I do business. I couldn't keep up the whole kosher thing. But yesterday, it was echoing in my mind, and he told me, yesterday, business is not going so well the last few months. I lost some business deals, and it's aching me. Yesterday, I said, you know what, I'm going to eat kosher. And he says, I drove 40 minutes to the other side of town to eat in a kosher restaurant. And he says, I sat down, and as I'm sitting, I'm overhearing the two people behind me talking about some real estate property that is not even in the market, that is about to go out to the market in this and this location, and he's eardropping. And he said, somehow I came into the conversation, and we're going with this deal, and he was able to flip it and make like $1.2 million on that deal. Something like that, okay? And again, I'm not giving you all the details, but And he tells me it's because I went to eat kosher food. I heard them talking about the deal. He didn't even buy the property, just that you understand. He did some type of a maneuver, real estate maneuver, and he made $1.2 million on that deal. And he says, you're right, the kosher food. So I stuck it into him. I told you, you eat kosher food, you'll be doing very well in business. So it's a little bit sidetracking of what we're saying, but he's saying, even if you have to be busy all day long, what does he say? Behevlei haolam, in the emptiness of this world, your mind is focused on Hashem. You don't neglect Hashem's service for anything. Not to gain money, not to be rich, not to find success. First, you focus on what Hashem tells you to do, then anything else. So how does he say that? מפני שאין דבר נאהב אצלו כלל לערך אהבתו יתברך. Hashem only values one thing in what you do, is how much you love Him, not anything else. I'll read it again. אין דבר נאהב אצלו כלל, Hashem doesn't like anything in comparison לערך אהבתו יתברך, to how Hashem sees how much you love Him and how much importance you put to His will. If you think you're going to skip your prayer to go into a business deal, Hashem says, oh, if you push everything away and you put me in the center of attention, I'll make the business deal work. Don't go now and put me, on hold. And that's what a lot of people do. They put their service to Hashem as secondary. Let me first focus on what I need to do, and then if I have time, I'll learn a little bit. No, you wake up in the morning, first you go and pray for an hour and a half, then you learn Torah for an hour and a half or 2 or 3 hours, then you do business. Again, another story. I don't think we're going to get much today with all the stories, but when I became observant, I learned a lot of Torah, and I wanted to learn Torah. Then I got married, and my wife agreed for me to learn Torah, and she would go and work. So it worked well the first year of marriage, then we had a baby, so it didn't work so well. I had to work a little bit. But at some point, I wanted to sit and learn Torah, and we needed parnasa. So, long story, and I'm going to get into the whole story, but somebody gave us an idea, and overnight I became a photographer. It wasn't overnight, that was something I did for years as a hobby, but somebody says, why don't you become a photographer? It's a good business. And I didn't listen to the person. My wife told me, I think it's a good idea. My rabbi told me, "Kol ma shesara ishtecha omer lecha shma bekola." Whatever your wife tells you, you listen to her. The next day, we opened the business. And sure enough, that business allowed me to learn 7 years straight in yeshiva. Because I would do weddings. I would do 1 or 2 weddings, 3 weddings a month. The rest of the day, sit and learn Torah. And it was a lot of money. So not only that it was a very successful business very quickly, it also allowed me to sit and learn. I didn't have parnasa issues. I didn't have anything bothering me. I knew I had good business. I would spend literally a few hours a month. First sit and learn. I would sit and learn. It's called in Hebrew Yeshuv Adat, peace of mind. I didn't have to worry where I'm paying my rent, because in the first 2 years of my marriage life, we were so poor, we didn't even have money to buy food. My wife would come to the yeshiva where I learned. I would take out food from the yeshiva. We would sit on the bench outside. That's how poor we were. But nevertheless, things changed. We started having kids, and the business allowed me not only to sustain the family in a nice way. The business was very successful. We ended up making a lot of money, and I said, learn Torah. What more do you want from that? Eventually, the business grew more, so I had to put a little bit more time in the business. But I would sit in yeshiva till 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Only at 2 o'clock in the afternoon I would come home and work for 2-3 hours, 2 to 4, 2 to 5, and then the rest of the evening go back and learn. Go and pray, take my kids with me to the shul. So I would end up literally working an hour or 2 a day, and then 3-4 times a month doing an event. The rest of the time sit and learn Torah. And you know what? Let me say it differently. The human mind says, oh, if you work only 2-3 hours a day, you're making so much money, because we made a lot of money. What if you're going to work 8 hours a day? You can make more events, and bring more crews and wow. That's what the Yetzer Hara says. Forget about the yeshiva right now. You're making money, you're on a roll. But what was my priority? 6 o'clock in the morning, I came to the yeshiva. Till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you can't even talk to me. I didn't even go with the phone. My wife needed me. You know where I am. That's it. I don't have to sit with my phone there. And only 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I came home, ate. Okay, now let's do some Devorah Hevel, some worldly things. Finish it real fast, and then go and learn more. So what does he say here? מפני שאין דבר נאהב אצלו כלל לערך אהבתו יתברך. Hashem sees how much you love him. That's his priority. That's what he focuses on. Anything else will be successful. You want the business to be successful? Focus on your avodat Hashem, on your service to Hashem. Make that your ikar, the priority. Making money is nothing. You can make money working an hour a day. But it's only going to work if you're really showing the true love to Hashem and you're focusing on what you're supposed to do. Hashem says, I'll make your work, instead of 8 hours a day, I'll make it in an hour a day. I will do the work for you. So I can testify that this works. Very hard to break the barrier. You have to have a lot of trust, a lot of emunah, and to put everything in the hands of Hashem. But it has to be authentic that you're saying to Hashem, this is my priority, not anything else. My priority is to be a true servant to Hashem. That's rule number 2, how you enter the secret of Chesed. ולכן כל אהבתו והשתדלותו תהיה רק להשם לבדו. Which means that all your love, all your efforts, all your hard work is only to Hashem. Not to your business, not to whatever else you want to do, only to Hashem. And you know where it works again? I'm telling you constantly, business. When I became observant, I attended yeshiva, that was my goal. But at some point, I was like, I want to get married. I'm single. It's hard to be a single man. Close to 30, I want to get married. I would go out on dates and shidduchim, matchmaking, whatever. And I end up not focusing on my learning because I would run after finding a wife. Did I find one? No. When did I find my wife? When I said, I'm not looking for a wife anymore. I'm going to yeshiva, closing the door, locking the door, and I'm not coming out of the yeshiva for the next 2-3 years. And I'm only going to focus on my Torah studies. 2 weeks after I said that, I met my wife. Now you're coming after I wanted to sit and learn all day long. So another proof to you. When my mind was on finding a wife, you know, they say in Hebrew, "Merov etzim lo roim tayar." Too many trees, you can't see the forest. So I couldn't find my wife. The second that I said, what is my true love? Is to serve Hashem. I need to learn Torah. Hashem says, I can find your wife like that. I will put her in front of you. You don't need to go anywhere. You don't need to go on dates. I'll put her in front of you and you'll know she's your wife. You don't have to now go through the whole ordeal with finding your spouse. Another perfect example. You focus on what Hashem tells you to do. Hashem says, I'll take care of business. Therefore, the first thing that you need to worry about is the needs for your servants of Hashem. What's the first thing I need to do in the morning? Work out? Eat something healthy? Go for a spin? Go be 7 o'clock in the morning in the business? What do I need to do first thing in the morning? First thing in the morning, I need to go and pray. So you have to go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night. You can't watch Netflix series till 2 o'clock in the morning and then be on your WhatsApp till 3 in the morning and then on Facebook till 4 in the morning and then think you're going to wake up to pray. It's not going to work. You have to say, what's my priority? To wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. So go to sleep now, it's 9 o'clock in the evening. You can't watch a movie right now. I know you really want to watch the new series that came out, the brand new season. Go and sleep. Because the highest priority is to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Why? So you can pray quietly, full of energy, full of focus, and later on you do what you need to do. So highest priority, yetaken techilat tzarkei avodato. You set up the needs in order for you to serve Hashem. That's my priority right now. You want to go on a vacation? First, you find where's the nearest shul to where you're going. You don't go to the island you want to be on a vacation. Okay, let's look for a minyan. You go to the vacation where the shul and the kosher restaurant is. That's how you find your vacation. And anything else. I'm just giving you different examples how my mind thinks. I want to go on a vacation. Okay, first of all, let's locate the shul. I need a synagogue to go and pray. You go also pray on vacation, by the way. There's no vacation from praying. Now I need kosher food. So it needs either kosher restaurants or a kosher supermarket or some way of me cooking food over there. If not, I can't go there. So again, yetaken techilat tzarkei avodato. You have to first think, okay, what do I need for me to have easy access to serve Hashem? All the rest will just fall through. Al yedei esek haTorah v'atfilah v'mitzvot. What is my service to Hashem? Esek haTorah, that the Torah is becoming like my business. Prayer, tefillah, and mitzvot, the commandments. Uvahem tiyeh ikar ishtadluto kocho u'marzo. And for that is going to be the main effort, most of your energy, most of your time, all your money. That's what he has to be focused on. Now, I can tell you already, as a human being, it's very hard to make the switch in the mind. When you have your mind focused on, I have to make a living. I have to be successful. I have to learn for my exams. When your mind is constantly putting the highest priority on your physical needs, you're pushing Hashem aside, and Hashem says, okay, so go ahead. You do it. It's not easy to make the switch by saying, my highest priority is serving Hashem to the fullest. That even if I'm left with half an hour in that day, in that half an hour, Hashem will make everything work. Now, to make the switch is very, very hard. But once you're able to have that mind frame, that my highest priority is only serving Hashem, I guarantee to you that all your needs will be answered within 20 minutes of your time. Half an hour, 3 hours. I'm telling you from experience, not from a theory. Whenever I put my mind on physical things and neglected my spiritual service to Hashem, nothing worked. Whenever I made a complete 180 and I'm only focusing on Hashem, everything worked perfectly. And what do I mean by perfectly? How Hashem wanted it to work. Not how I wanted it to work. So you have to put priority to the Master of the universe. Ve'achar kach, after all this, and he has in parentheses the commentary, im yisha'er lo zman, if you have a little bit time left. Hamutar yeh l'shar hatzrachim. The little time that is left for you, then you do whatever you want. For whatever your needs are. But the question is if you'll have any time left. וגם אז מחשבתו דבוקה באדון הכל. And even in that little time that is left, and you do whatever you want, even then your thought is glued onto Hashem. Whatever it is. And I'm not going to give you too many examples or at all, because you have to have your mind on Hashem. You want to work out because you like the workout, your thought has to be, I'm working out to be healthy so I can serve Hashem. Not working out to win the competition. Or whatever it is that you do. I'm just giving you one example out of many. Which means that even when you do what's leisurely for you, it has to have, okay, how am I applying that later on to serving Hashem? And eventually you have to get to a point that everything that you do, it's in your mind, it's all for Hashem. Even when I eat so I'll have energy so I can pray and serve the Master of the universe. I work so I can have money to serve the Master of the universe. Anything that I do. Somebody once asked me, told me, I like working out in the gym. Is that permitted by the Torah? And I said, if you work out in the gym, that every second you're standing like that in the mirror, and you want the whole world to see how muscular you are, then it's not permitted from the Torah. But if you're working out in the gym, and your mind is saying, I want to work out in the gym so I can be healthy, to learn Torah and serve Hashem and to be strong and to be focused on my avodat Hashem, then your hours in the gym is permitted in the Torah and is also recommended. It all depends what's your purpose. Is your purpose to flash your muscles? and to be showing off, or is your purpose to be strong, healthy, fit, in order for you to serve Hashem? Same thing here. And then he concludes by saying, "V'tiyeh ahava zot l'Hashem yitbarach," and this love that we're talking about should be placed, the love to Hashem, of course, and not only love to Hashem. You can love Hashem with all your heart, but you don't like the mitzvot. And I know people like that. I love Hashem, it's so great. So come and put tefillin on. No, I'm a good person. I love Hashem. So what if you love Hashem? You have to do something. So he says here, Ahavato azot, this love, leHashem ve'mitzvotav, and to his commandments. This love, what it should do, tku'a belibo. It has to be stuck in your heart, keyated shelo timot, like a steak. Not a steak that you eat, like a T-bone, like a steak, like a, how do you call it, a peg. You want the tent to be strong, you put a stake in the ground, and it keeps everything firm. But he says that love has to be stuck in your heart like a stake. Can't take it out. That it's so deep in your heart that there's no even a question that there's anything that has priority to Hashem. Everything is Hashem, everything else is secondary. Ben yekabel tovot me'et Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and this should be whether you are receiving kindness from Hashem, you see success in your labor, you see fruits of your labor, things are working out in life. It's very easy to thank Hashem and to love Hashem when things are working out. When things work out, Hashem is the best God, right? Hashem is not such a good God when things don't work out. So he says, Ben yakabel tovot, doesn't matter, even if you get good from Hashem, and what's good, that your dreams are fulfilled, you find a good spouse, you have a good marriage, you have good parnasah, you make money, things work out, everything that you do becomes successful, then it's easy to thank Hashem, right? Kama yismach v'yodeh lakadosh baruch Hu. Then you have to rejoice, be happy, and thank Hashem for all the good that He does. She'gdil chasdo ito, that He enlarged the kindness with him. And not to chas v'shalom says, I did it. I invested. It was my idea. All the gratitude goes to Hashem. And where did Hashem brought it from? Me'otzar matnat chinam bechesed v'lo b'zchut. And Hashem gave it to you as a free present, like chesed, kindness. Here, take. Not that you earned it. I want to give you. I always tell my kids the same thing. You want the best out of me? You don't have to, excuse my language, kiss my tuchus. You have to do what I like. By default, I will shower you with kindness and whatever you want. You just have to dig deep into my mind, understand, what do I want for my kids? If you figure that out, you don't have to ask for money. You don't have to ask for things from me. I will give it to you anyways. And in abundance, because I'm happy. But, like I told you, it's very easy to thank Hashem when things are going well. But what happens if you're going through agony and suffering and challenges, and Hashem proves you and reprimands you, and life is not so sweet as you would wish? Then you don't want to thank Hashem. Why am I receiving it? It's not fair. I did so much. I don't deserve it. What kind of a reward am I getting? I'm such a good person. You don't want to thank Hashem. So he says, the love to Hashem has to be stuck in your heart like with a stake. Doesn't matter if you're getting good from Hashem or if you're getting bad. It shouldn't change your love. And even if Hashem reprimands you and puts you down and humiliates you, not directly by Him, but He would send the right messengers to do the job very well. Even so, Yevarech al hara b'simcha. Bless on the evil and the bad with great joy. Be happy that the business didn't work out, your wife left you, whatever it is. Just the other day I met a person and she was completely heartbroken, and she told me my husband cheated on me with a young girl and he left me. So I said, in Hebrew, it doesn't sound good in English, but I said, he deserves it. Obviously Hashem took this evil man away from you. Say thank you. He ran now with this young woman. She'll take his money. She'll take him for a ride. She'll do something for him. Magia lo. In Hebrew, it sounds more to the point than in English. He deserves it. In Hebrew, it's like a knife to the heart. Magia lo. And you should be happy. No, you don't even know what I'm going through. I said, say thank you. Kadosh Baruch Hu took this man away from you. And when Hashem slams the door in your face, if you accept it with love, the next door that opens is much greater. Yevarech al hara b'simcha. Bless on the bad and on the evil with great joy and happiness. Ki yesh kama rot shesofan tovot. Because usually what seems to be bad, the end of it is actually good. And here he gives an example which is not so applicable for us, but he says, Keoto ha'ish shenichnas kotz leraglo, like the person that stepped on a thorn or a nail, vehefsid asfina, and he couldn't make it to the ship, v'nitberer shenitbe'a, and the ship drowned. So this is just a metaphorical example. How many people lost their flight and the flight went down in 9/11? And all sorts of stories that you miss like that, you hear like that, and what seemed bad actually was extremely, extremely good. וכן רוב הנערים המצליחים בתורה, and here he gives another metaphor. Don't forget, this is going back 400 years, so it's a little bit different than our times. He says, the young men that are successful in love, in Torah, and fear and wisdom, and business, הם יתומים, they're orphans. Maybe nowadays you don't really see it, and also going back hundreds of years ago, it was more common that kids were orphans. People would die young, there was all sorts of plagues and whatever. But he says here, the ones who are the most successful in Torah, and in love, and fear from Hashem, and business, they're orphans. They had to go through a hard, rough childhood, but the other part of their life, they were successful and they grew. ולפעמים, and sometimes, נתחייב האדם לפורענות על חטאיו. Now don't forget that sometimes you do sins and you are judged. Pur'anut is called calamity. You do something bad, there's a judgment from above that you're going to have to suffer. And sometimes the suffering can be great, by the way. You don't even notice sometimes what you do. You cheat, you lie, you slander, you gossip, and you can do even worse things. Now, I'm not pointing a finger. If you're right or not right, it's irrelevant. But sometimes you do something bad, there's going to be a judgment for that. And that has to come as a slap to your face. He says, פורענות, calamity. ובצרה קטנה נחלץ מהצרה יותר גדולה שהיה צריכה לבוא עליו. Sometimes Hashem says, I love him so much. I can't now destroy his business. Let me just put him through a small car accident. He will only lose $5,000. But that will be instead of me destroying his entire house. So sometimes, tzara ktana, something small, you get upset, you have a flat tire, you got an 80 shekel ticket, whatever it is. You came home from the supermarket, the bottle of wine fell on the floor and broke. Ah! But sometimes, tzara ktana, something small, it's to cover something that you don't even know. The whole house was supposed to burn down. You know the story with the Baal Shem Tov, that there's one guy who came to the Baal Shem Tov and told him, Dear Rebbe, I know you know the language of the birds. Teach me, please. I want to know the language of the birds. The Baal Shem Tov says, what do you need this headache? It's a headache. No, please, I want to know, please. He says, okay, you want to know, I'll teach you. And he teaches him the language of the birds. So the guy walks in the street and he hears two birds. And he hears that this guy, the birds are talking about him, he's about to break his leg. Oh my God, he starts walking quiet, he walks very, very, very soft. He doesn't go through the forest or whatever. He does everything he could to save, and he wouldn't break his leg. A few days passed, he didn't break the leg. Baruch Hashem, it was worthwhile. He walks down the street, again he hears two birds talking between themselves. He listens and he hears the birds saying about him, this poor guy, his house is about to go on fire. Oh my God! He runs to the house, puts everything safe, turns all the fire off, puts fire extinguishers everywhere. Sure enough, no fire. A few days pass, again, he goes in the forest, he hears the birds. This time he doesn't like what he hears. The birds are saying, you see this guy? He's about to die. About to die? He runs to the Baal Shem Tov. What am I going to do? The bird says, I'm going to die. What am I going to do? Baal Shem Tov tells him, I can't help you. That's the decree from above. But what am I going to do? I don't want to die. Please help me. And the Baal Shem Tov told him, I told you not to learn the language of the birds. Because originally, there was a decree on you from the heavens, and they were willing to let you go by something small, by you breaking your leg. But you had to go and stop it. So it rolled over, and they said, you know what? Okay, we're going to just burn his house. You had to go and eliminate that. So now the decree has to come down, and you're going to be dead. They're going to kill you. So sometimes something small is to replace a very big problem. So when something small strikes a problem, a difficulty, a challenge, a headache, thank you Hashem that it's only this. I don't know how bad it could have been. Al ken, therefore, im ba'im yisurim al adam, therefore if a calamity, hardship, suffering comes to you, yachshevem la'ava lo. Accept it that this is Hashem's love. Hashem loves you right now. וגם אם לפעמים הטובה בזה נסתרת, and many of the times you don't see the benefit, you don't see the good and the kindness in the bad thing that you're going through, ידע, you should know, שהמכה הוא אוהבו. Know that the one who strikes really loves you. ובוודאי זה רק לטובה. And no question here, it's all for the good. As it says in the book of Mishlei, Proverbs chapter 27:6, Ne'emanim pitzei ohev. Translation, wounds of a lover are faithful. The continuation of the verse, whereas kisses of an enemy burns him. Better to get a smack from somebody that loves you than a kiss at somebody that is your enemy. So when Hashem smacks you, He loves you. Like a father educating the child. As Shlomo HaMelech says, "Makev bno chosech shivto." You hit your child, you're saving yourself from a lot of headache. Don't, you need to know sometimes when to give the slap to the face. כמו אוהב של אדם שרצו אויביו להכותו לזרע שגמלם. Like sometimes a person, the enemy, they want to hit the person on something bad. והנה האוהב הזה נכנס להכותו מכות חלשות להצילו מידם. Sometimes a person, your friend, let me say it differently, your friend gives you a slap to your face, but really it's to save you from getting beaten up from people who really don't like you. And again, he's just using a metaphorical word. כי יראהו מכה ויתפסו. Why would that work? Because the ones who are coming to hit you, they see that you already got hit from somebody else. They said, okay, he already got his smack to the face. But the friend really just give him a small smack, knowing that the other ones are going to come to actually beat him up. Therefore, when you know that the small slap from your friend is going to save you from getting beaten up, you give your cheek to your friend. Yeah, give me the slap right now. Yisba besimcha tzaddik, then you should be fulfilled with the simcha like a tzaddik, ki mitzara gdola malet nafsho. Because from a huge problem, you were able to run free. It's almost like kind of saying that chas v'shalom, a person will go through a trial and the judge will tell him, listen, I'm going to give you 100 hours of community work. Community work! That's instead of half a year in jail. No problem, I will mop the floors. Now in many cases you don't see that the small slap to your face is actually to get you away from something big. But basically saying we're going to stop here, there's much more to go. Actually, you know what? Let's do a little stretch and at least finish this paragraph, and then we'll continue next time. So let me just continue. He quotes the book of Devarim, chapter 6, verse 5, a verse that we say every day. ואהבת את השם אלוקיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. Right? You should love your God with all your heart, with everything else, בכל מאודיך. What's בכל מאודיך? With all your means. Now, how can you accept this as a commandment. Love Hashem. Can you force me to love somebody? Bechol levavcha, with all your heart. Okay. But then it ends with bechol meodecha, with all your means. So he says, now let me explain to you what the Talmud says, and you can find the source in Tractate Brachot, page 54a. Bechol midah umidah. What does it mean, the word meodecha? Don't translate it with all your means, because translating in English you can't learn Torah. Meodecha means midah, with every measure. Saying, bechol midah v'midah, anything that Hashem, any measure that Hashem gives you, that's how you have to love Him. Shu moded lecha, Hashem measures for you how much parnasah you're going to get, how much life you're going to get. You want $1 million, Hashem says, I'm going to give you 100,000. You want to be successful here, says no, I want you to be successful over there. Hashem decides, but the word midah is not only measurement, midah can also be an attribute. So it can be midah tova v'midah ra'ah. So when the Torah tells you, v'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha, you should love God, your God, bechol levavcha, with all your heart, bechol nafshecha, with all your soul, bechol meodecha, with all your means. I don't like the translation with all your means. Means bechol midah. Love Hashem when He gives you midah tova, something good, or midah ra'ah, something bad. Because midah can also be an attribute. So the Torah tells you, you should love Hashem when He's good to you, and also when He seems not so good to you. When things don't work out. How many times I heard this story that a person was dumped by his date, the whole world collapsed. My answer was always like, something better is going to come. That's not nice words to hear when you're getting dumped and your heart is broken. But sure enough, that was the reality. Months passed and you found a better wife, a better husband. So again, on the surface, it seems like a bad attribute. Hashem is mean to you. He took away my opportunity. Now I don't have a business, I don't have a wife, whatever it is. So it says, Bechol modecha, bechol midah, even if it's good and even if it's bad. Ben midah tova, ben midat poranut, whether it's good or bad. Harei modelo, heve modelo, so you have to thank Him. Now, when you know how to thank Hashem for something that is bad, that's when you really soften Hashem's heart. Because usually when something bad happens, you start complaining, you're whining, you're not happy with Hashem's decision. But you have to thank Him. Kedei lichlol kol hamidot b'chesed. Why do you want to thank Him? So you can include in the midah of chesed all the rest of the midot, all the rest of the attributes. Shal yadei hoda'ah, when you thank and you're appreciative, gam al hagvura, when you're appreciative on the severity, on the judgment of Hashem, ve'kabbalat ha'isurim ba'avan, you accept the hardship with love, mamtik hagvurot lechasadim. Then you're taking something bitter and you're sweetening it. Hashem says, I'm going to now throw a challenge at you. Somebody's going to bump into your brand new car. And you're like cursing. And you lose your temper. And you upset. And you curse the person. Hashem says, you failed miserably. If you would accept this test, this challenge with love, taking something severe, the severity, the gvura, and accept it with love, then you would take the judgment and sweeten it. Don't worry, I'll get you a new car. What's the big problem? You're upset of a little dent. So really what happens is when you take something bitter and you include it in something good, what did he say? Mamtika gvurot chasadim. You're taking the gvura and you sweeten it into chesed. To translate it, you're sweetening the judgments into kindness. Venimtza, so what do you get from that? Sod hanagato ma'malchut. The way you conduct yourself is resembling the malchut, the sphere of malchut. And what does the sphere of malchut does? Meshatefet din berachamim. The malchut takes the judgment and puts it with mercy, and then, there's judgment, but it's sweetened. It's good. And gvura, judgment that is sweetened, is the best thing that you can achieve. Like I told you, sounds like that judgments are hard, but really gvura is restrictions. And you are the most successful and the best things happen when you know how to restrict things and give it in the right measure. Not too much. Chocolate cake is amazing. but a little piece. You eat half the cake, you're already throwing up. So a lot of everything, even if it's real good, you'll end up throwing up. It's not good. The severity, the din, the judgment comes to restricted. You just need X amount of it. You don't need so much. Keep it with a good taste. Sometimes when you have too much of something, it spoils everything. So when you accept the hardship with love, and you know that the one who's really slapping you, sending this challenge, loves you, it's done all from love, and you accept it with love, then you're sweetening the judgment, and it ends up being successful and good for you. And by that, you're applying the midah of chesed, that everything that you do, how you conduct yourself, it's not that you are doing chesed. That's not what we're talking about. It's not that you are doing charity and kindness. You're actually taking everything in your life into the midah of chesed, so everything in your life comes from a place of kindness. So even the bad things, Hashem, instead of slapping you strong, the slap is soft. There's judgments against you, you sweeten them. The business is supposed to collapse, you'll still left with some money. The house is supposed to be burned down, your valuables won't get damaged. Something has to be lost, the important things won't get lost. When I was a kid, we had a fire in our house. It was like as if, it was unbelievable. Everything that was valuable wasn't touched. Everything was burnt. And you see that so many times. That a picture of a tzaddik or the tefillin, or I'm sure you saw it so many times in a terror attack or a fire or whatever, certain things don't get touched. Why? Because the judgment had to come down, but it was sweetened, so it wasn't that bad. There was a judgment and chas v'shalom, a person should go to the hospital, but it was to, a broken finger, instead of chas v'shalom, a heart attack. So if chas v'shalom you go for something small and you complain, Hashem says, why are you complaining? It was supposed to be much worse. I redeemed it for a fraction of what it was supposed to be. Instead of paying 100,000 shekel fine, okay, I reduced it to 200. Say thank you. So we still have a long, long, long way. A long way. It's a long chapter to go through the entire concept of chesed. But we'll conclude with a few things. First of all, I want to resemble the Master of the Universe. I want to acquire this attitude. I want to be included that everything is in chesed. First of all, and most important, what did he say? שלא יניח עבודתו של השם יתברך בחום סיבה. The first thing actually he said, you have to ponder and meditate on the greatness of Hashem that will cause you to fall in love with Hashem. And again, now is not the time. Another class will dedicate how you reach to the point that you see in everything in front of you how great Hashem is, to a point that you are stunned, you are shocked, you are overwhelmed. That will develop, whether you want it or not, unbelievable love to Hashem. If now a person is going to be drowning and you pull them out of the water in their last breath, they're going to love you. Why? You saved my life. This is drowning, can mean any other thing. So another time we'll talk more in length. How do you cause that to happen? Second thing, highest priority is always Hashem. This is first priority, and this is practically the first thing you need to apply right now. You don't say, it's too late, I won't make it to the minyan, I'll pray at home. I'll do it tomorrow. Oh no, the business is much more important right now. Highest priority is Hashem, that your entire day is calculated and organized according to how it fits you perfect to first serve Hashem. And I gave you many examples, but one perfect example, when we used to live in America, we would go on vacation. The whole vacation was planned where the synagogue is, and if I have a minyan, and if there's kosher food, how far on Shabbat, what can I do on Shabbat? That the whole plan was according to that. And in many cases, it seemed like the vacation is not going to be so convenient. But first is Hashem. Everything else will fall through. And this is example with vacation, can be with business, can be anything else, but I can guarantee to you, if Hashem is highest priority, and that's what you need to put as the first thing you want to apply, that your entire life is planned around my service to Hashem. An observant family, most families when they go on a vacation, what's the highlight? Where are we eating? With an observant family, is first, everything is around the food. Because you need the kosher food, kosher restaurants, no food, you can't go into this place. And then, the last thing, which you can already apply right away, is constantly seeing the good in everything that Hashem does to you and thank for everything, the good, and also to start learning how to thank everything also for the bad. But thanking for the bad, knowing that it's really good. Hashem doesn't do anything bad to you, by the way. Even the worst things that can happen to you. The worst things that you can imagine, and unfortunately people go through horrible atrocities in this world. Losing loved ones, suffering financial loss, being molested, anything that you can think of. Let's take it to the worst things. Hashem doesn't do anything from an evil place. And I know many of the things, some people say, I don't see any kindness or love in Hashem, that I had to be raped, molested, cheated, whatever. I know it's not soothing to the ear to a person who's a victim, but Hashem doesn't do anything that is evil. Hashem knows exactly what He's doing. That's called Bechol Meodecha, when we're saying in Kriyat Shema that you have to love Hashem with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your means. Forget what the word means. Meodecha is midah. How much Hashem gives you. If I got such a slap to my face, Hashem didn't do it from evil. Hashem is not getting back at me. There's no revenge going on here. Obviously, that was what I was supposed to go through. I can tell you already, this is not soothing words to the ears of the victim. I'm talking about serious things right now. I dealt with many people that were raped, molested, misused in unbelievable ways, tortured. They don't want to hear Hashem loves you. It's not going to appease their mind. But the reality is, that's not what I'm going to say to such an individual. But the reality is, that's the measure that what Hashem wanted to give you. Forget about molestation and rapes and stuff. How many people go through a horrible divorce and the person, you can't even imagine what one spouse is doing to the other. I don't deserve it. Why did I have to go through this? Well, you obviously had to go through this. That's the measure how Hashem decided to put this calamity on you. Now you can complain, you can be bitter, you can dislike Hashem, or you can just say, that's what Hashem wanted. Accept it with love. It could have been worse. It could have been much, much worse. That's what Hashem wanted. Now, listen, I went through very bad things in my life. I had ups and downs. But when the downs came, they were down. It was very easy to say, what does Hashem want from me? What do you want from me? Why so bad? But my attitude was always, I guess that's what I deserve. I guess the intensity of the slap to the face, that's what I put out there, that's what I deserve, and Hashem knows what He's doing. I got exactly what I deserve. Because Hashem works midah keneged midah, measure for measure. There's no distortions. If the slap to the face that I got hurts, must be that I did something in the same magnitude. And I know, again, I'm apologizing to the ones who can't hear things like this, because sometimes people go through real bad things. They don't want to hear that I did something wrong. But nevertheless, Hashem gives you what He thinks is the best for you. Hashem is not evil in any type of a way. But nevertheless, you do something bad, you'll get a reaction. Don't live under the impression that you'll be able to somehow sneak from judgment. It doesn't work like that. If anybody tells you, don't worry, Hashem loves you, you'll be fine. No, it doesn't work like that. You'll desecrate Shabbat, you'll pay for that. Anything that you do, you'll end up paying for that. It will come, hopefully, with a lot of mercy from Hashem. But even with the mercy, it might hurt a lot. A lot. So I always say, at least to my kids, don't mess with Hashem. Okay? You want to mess with anybody else? Fine. With Hashem, don't mess. Because the slap that comes from Hashem, you're not going to be able to handle it. Because my kids are more turning to become adults. I see different things that they do. I tell them, listen, you can mess with me, mess with the authorities, the police. Don't mess with Hashem. Because the slap that Hashem will give you for messing with Him, that I'm not so sure you'll be able to handle. I don't think you'll be able to handle it, because when Hashem wants to put you in your space, He knows how to do it the best way. But nevertheless, every time that I went through horrible things while I was in my years of being observant, the attitude was, thank you Hashem, I know it could have been 100 times worse. And I know it's bad. That should inspire me to do good. But I can tell you that when you thank Hashem for the bad things, you think they're bad. But when you thank Hashem and it's authentic, you sweeten it. I saw it with my own eyes dozens of times. That I thanked Hashem with all my heart. I was actually happy with the bad thing that happened. I saw how it was sweetened, and the bad thing ended up being not that bad, and even something good came out of it. And it can only happen as what we concluded, Mamtik Gvurot lechasadim. The Gvura is there. I told you many times. You can't change the Gvura. You can't change the lawsuit. You can't rip the file. Remember I told you in the last few classes, you make a sin, you create a prosecutor. You can't kill the prosecutor. You can make the prosecutor a defense attorney. That's calling sweetening the judgments. But you can't kill or eliminate the prosecutor. How do you sweeten the prosecutor, the judgment? Then you accept it with love. You know that it's Hashem's love. You're saying to Hashem, I accept it. I thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to do my best. Then you sweeten the judgment, and needless to say, you're transferring the judgment into the chesed, and it turns out to be the best thing possible. You thought it's going to be a major loss. It ends up being a great, great victory and a great win. There's a story in the Talmud about a certain rabbi who he had wine. He had a vineyard. And one time, all of his barrels, I think the Gemara says about 1,000 barrels, they all went sour and returned into vinegar. Oh, massive, massive financial loss. When he went to the rabbis, he himself was a sage, but when he went to the rabbis, they told him, must have been that you did some type of gezel. You did gezel. Gezel, the translation is robbery, but it's not like armed robbery. It's like a theft that you not necessarily doing it in the knowledge of the person that was stolen from. Stealing is that you break into somebody's house, you take the TV out. Gezel, the person doesn't even know that you took something from him. But anyways, so they told him he must have done some type of gezel. He went and made a quick calculation, and he figured out that he had like fields, and he paid less to the workers, and that was considered gezel. He didn't pay them exactly what they were supposed to be paid. He fixed it up, came to terms, he did whatever he needed to do, sweetened the judgment, and what happened then? On another side of town, there was shortage in vinegar, and he was the only one who had vinegar. All the thousands of barrels that turned from wine to vinegar that would be worthless, suddenly there was a shortage. He's the only one who has vinegar, and needless to say, he made much more money than what he would make on the grapes. So you see how it was a judgment because of gezel. He didn't pay the workers the right. There was a judgment. The wine went sour. For him was like a financial loss you can't even imagine. He made, how do you say? He came with amends. He made amends. He did tshuva. He fixed it up. He accepted it. Okay, Hashem, I accept it with love. Then Hashem says, I'll take the bitter and make it much more good. So the decree, the evil, the negative turned into something super, super sweet and powerful and extraordinary. And why? Because he was accepting it with great love. So B'ezrat Hashem, next class we'll continue. The chapter is not so short. We have much more to learn, but at least you have some homework that you can apply. And I'm already telling you, not to hurt your feelings. If you don't apply it, you wasted now an hour of your time. You're just sitting here and nodding. If you don't go home now and say, okay, what do I do right now to apply these three little things so I can already apply my learning into some type of a change, then you won. But if you're going home and it got deleted from the system, then sorry to tell you, you wasted your time, your last hour. So go and apply it. The whole point is to apply what you learn. As our sages say, Gadol ha-Talmud ha-Mavi l'dei ma'aseh. When is the Talmud, the learning is great? When you actually transform it into action. Then you gain the action and the learning. If you don't do action, you just learned. And the reward for the learning is not so big because you didn't do much. When does it turn much? When you actually apply it. And by that, we can start applying this attitude, this approach of chesed in our life. And I can tell you that when you know how to turn the right key, you'll see such kindness, such chesed in your life. Everything is going to be chesed. You'll be jumping from joy for everything that happens, because you see how Hashem wants to give you everything, like a loving father. He says, I want to give you everything according to what you deserve and what you can handle. I don't want to give you more than what you can handle. Mezal Hashem, with that, we should open the wellsprings of blessings from Hashem to bless us with exactly what we need, exactly what is good for us, and all should be coming in a revealed way of kindness and chas v'shalom, not the other ways.